Today's topic is going to be the 4 R's of good reps. The 4 R's of good reps. So if you want to make those juicy gains, get those big biceps, I'm going to talk about some ways to kind of really stack the box in your favor to make sure you get the best gains, the best return on your time spent in the gym. So as far as these, I got the 4 R's for you, and we're going to go descending priority. So priority number 1 when it comes to the 4 R's of those good reps. So if we just want to, get really big muscles, we want to get the most return on our time. What we're going to start with, the 4 R's of good reps. So the first R is going to be number 1. We're going to go with really hard. So the 4 R's of good reps, the first one is they got to be really hard. What does that mean? So what do we mean by that? So when it comes to really hard reps, this is going to talk about intensity. So the big piece when it comes to really hard reps is, and this is the interesting thing about this first point, is if you do not get any of these other 4 R's, if you don't do anything else, but you have hard reps, you train hard in the gym, you have high intensity, you're training towards failure, you're probably going to grow. You don't even have to know too much. You don't even have to know many nuances. You don't even have to read a scientific study ever in your life. If you train hard consistently in the gym, you're probably going to grow muscles. And then probably the science people are going to be like, oh, he trains stupid. But it's like, hey, talk to these biceps. And so you're winning the game. So that's kind of like, if I were to put the most important thing, interesting enough, as much as I want to be like in the weeds and stuff and be like, okay, it's XYZ because the sodium phosphate pathways and stuff. Like, no, it's train hard. Make sure what you're doing in the gym is difficult. And I got some examples on this too. And one of them is going to be a reference in terms of Pokemon. We're gonna talk about Pokemon real quick. But the most important thing when it comes to intensity and training really hard is going to be, so what is intensity? Intensity means that you were training close to failure. So when it comes to training really hard, it's just like, let's say you can do 30-pound dumbbells for a certain exercise. You can only do 10 reps with those. If you are stopping at 6 reps, you have 4 reps left in the tank. So you can do a set of 10. You're stopping at a set of 6. You're leaving 4 reps in the tank. Is that hard enough to give you growth? You'll get a little bit of growth, but you're going to get more if you're probably, getting that 8th or 9th rep. That's probably where you're going to want to be in the long term of training. And even really grinding out that 10th rep, it's going to be ugly. It's going to slow down, but like those are really going to be where you pick up a good amount of gains from those. And if you imagine this over the long period of time, the saying, if your best isn't enough, make your best better or something. I totally butchered that, but in my head, it sounded good. But when it comes to, if you're always training intensely, because you get better at the thing, if you're always training towards your limits just keep improving. And you're always going to be constantly, pushing yourself and doing more because you know that you're making sure that things are difficult. When your capacity for difficult things increases, and then you still keep pushing to that 95th percentile of what you're capable of, that means as you get better, automatically you're going to be increasing and doing more and doing harder things. So on the flip side, if we don't train with this intensity and we're kind of like, I can do 10 reps with the 30s. I'm gonna stop at 6. It's starting to get hard. Like, that's the point. That's why we're in the gym. It's supposed to be hard. You don't go to the gym to have like a nice walk. You're in the wrong place. You go there to challenge yourself. And when you challenge yourself consistently, you're able to do more for next time. And now the challenge is you can fight bigger dragons. You can go into harder dungeons, and you're going to be able to do more. So back to the whole thing. So train really hard. So you're training with intensity. You're training close to failure. You're doing what you're capable of. You're not cutting yourself short. And so how often do people get this wrong? The most frustrating thing, I think that this is also like the number one thing. How often do people get this wrong? And so I would say the number one thing I see holding people back that have been in the gym, let's say like 10 years ongoing, they're like, man, like, why my genetics must not be that good. I haven't really grown that much, but I train, 2 hours every day. And when you look at them training, you notice that they do 5 reps, they put the weights down, none of the reps got slower, it didn't look that hard, and they start texting. Like, yes, you're showing up to the gym so many times, but I can kind of guess why the gains aren't coming. You're not pushing yourself. You're not pushing yourself to move more weight. When you move more weight and you have muscles that can move more weight, there tend to be bigger muscles. But when you just keep doing the same weight on the bar, a lot of people, it's going to be 135 pounds on the bench, 225 pounds on the bench. You keep just putting that same number on the bench and doing the same amount of reps because it's your routine. A routine is not the same reps and weight. A routine is that you do the same exercises, but within that routine, you're pushing those reps, those weights. That is how you grow a physique. That is how you grow muscles. So I don't want to hear it when people are like, oh, I've been training 15 years, but I haven't got, results like you have. And it's like, okay, well, I don't care how long you've been training or like how many times you've been in the gym. Like, what are you doing in the gym? Because some people can be on their phone 50% of the time, not really getting the work done. And sometimes people are just shooting themselves in the foot in terms of gains because they're just not training hard enough. And I would say when I see people that are very consistent, and that's a really hard thing to do. Being consistent in the gym is very, very challenging, very difficult to do. And it's nice to see like when people are able to do that, you're 90% of the way there. So now just train hard. Now just try to make yourself better. And those gains are going to come. Again, it's kind of like chicken or the egg. Like, do the bigger muscles move bigger weight, or does the moving bigger weight make the bigger muscles? Like, I don't know, but like at the end of the day, moving more weight for yourself is going to mean you're going to be having bigger muscles. So make that the thing. And that happens when you train intensely. Hi, Jared. How you doing? Appreciate you saying hello. Your boy's ranting this week for some reason. So we're going back to we're on the first R of the R's of good reps. So we're talking about train really hard. It's going to be trained with sufficient training intensity. How often do people get this wrong? And so there's been studies where people will say like, I think it's like stop at 2 reps left in the tank. Stop at 3 reps left in the tank. And this is different situations when you're actually in a legitimate like research study or like a lab study. You have like the researchers cheering you on, egging you on. So you may say like, okay, my 2 reps left in the tank is 8 reps with a 30 pounds. But then when you have 5 people cheering you on, yelling at you, and you're being egged on, like you may squeak out 12 reps, 13 reps, 15 reps. And so it's kind of funny. I think that Dr. Eric Helms was involved in some studies that have kind of shown this, where they were trying to gauge the reps in reserve, and they just undershot what they were capable of by massive amounts. And what that shows us is like, honestly, and I was having this conversation with HFP head coach Brandon. We're talking about this in this last Monday, where just the mentality of training is tough. And what I mean by that is, let's say like your mind's not right. You're in a situation of like, oh, I'm not that strong today. I don't think I can really do too much. You get under the squat bar. You're like, oh man, yeah, this feels heavy. I don't know about this. And then you get like 5 reps done. But if you come in with like a different mentality, your mind's just right on that day. And you're like, all right, I may die today in this squat bar underneath this barbell, but I am going to get 8 reps no matter what. And like, you just go in there with the right mentality and you're just expecting those reps to be difficult. And you're like, okay, you hit 10 reps. This does happen, just like having your mind right. And sometimes it's good to be kind of very stubborn in the gym. Just like, okay, like whatever happens, if this feels light, if it feels heavy, I'm getting X done. And those people that are really stubborn mentally, they tend to get really good gains. But circling this all the way back, people get this wrong very often with training intensity. They think that they have 2 reps left in the tank when they have 5, they have 7 reps left in the tank. So sometimes it's getting your mind right. And the best way to not allow that to happen, to not allow yourself to be trained with lacking intensity, is probably one of my favorite things for anyone who's new to the gym, old to the gym, is you just focus on this one thing. It is windy outside. I think that's wind, or maybe it's another New Jersey earthquake. It's actually the air conditioning. So beat the logbook. Beat the logbook. That is but what do you do when you're like IDFC? Like, I don't effing care. That's when like you just gotta fake it till you make it, baby. Sometimes you get into the gym, and sometimes like those IDFC days come up. And I'll say for myself, I'm getting more of them than I would like to. Like, I don't show up to the gym every day. I'm like, I got it. Like, oh, my knees feel great. I'm strong today. These weights feel light. If every day were a PR setting day, like you have to have, it's kind of like happiness. If you're happy every single day, then it's just baseline, and it's kind of not a non-thing. It's not, you wouldn't probably grade yourself as happy. People that are happy people don't really even know. But you need to have the opposite happen. You need to have sad days to appreciate the happy days. Sad isn't a good or a bad thing. It just is. And so when you have happiness and you have sadness, you get the contrast. Same thing of like when you have a great day in the gym, you're feeling strong. The reason you know you feel strong that day is because there's days where you don't feel so strong. And that's okay. It's not a bad thing. And you can control the controllables as much as you can. Good sleep, good nutrition, et cetera, et cetera. But it's just going to happen. You're just going to have those days where it's like, man, I want to go back to bed. And it happens. And that's why I recommend just showing up to the gym. Pretty much in my case, I go every day. But knowing that probably 2 days, I'm just going to be like, this ain't it. This day is just not it. I'm going back to bed. And is that wrong? Is it right? Should I toughen up? Some days I need to just toughen up. Other days it's like, yeah, I want to save this workout for a day where I'm ready to really, give it my all and really feel good. So totally, those days are going to come up, and that's a great point. But getting back into this, I said the beat the logbook. Simplest way to do this, make sure that you're training with high intensity, because there's two things that can happen. If you always shoot to beat the logbook and just keep your feelings out of it, not easy to do, not easy to do, but keep your feelings out of it. And what I mean by this is, like, let's say you're doing a certain exercise. Let's say you're doing, we're going to go do squats again. Barbell squats. Yeah, let's say 135 on the bar, and you did, let's say 8 reps last week. So this week I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to get 9 reps done. My just goal, everything is to get, 135 for 9. I hit 9. Next week, okay, just want to get 10. Just want to beat last time, get 10. You get 10. Okay, now logically, I'm either going to bump up the weight by 5 pounds, and then probably I'm going to go for 7 or 8, or I'm going to go for 11 reps and just try to beat my last week's performance, because I'm beating the logbook, trying to beat my previous performance. And eventually, over time, so you add those 5 pounds, you get 140 on the barbell, you hit 7 reps. You still did more weight, and now next week we're going to try to get 8 reps. And you complete this cycle. Let's say every time you hit 10 reps, you bump the weight, then you're back to 7 or 8, and then you work your way up. Eventually, you get to that scary weight. Eventually, you're like, there's no way I can hit 170. That's a lot of weight. I don't think I can do that. Hey, keep your feelings out of it. The logbook says you hit 165 for 10 reps. The next logical thing to do is to do 170 or 160. We said 165. The next logical thing is to bump up the weight to 170 and try to get 6, maybe 7 reps. It's 5 pounds more than what you did. It's the minimal increase for the next thing. And if you keep your feelings out, there's going to be scary weights out there. Oh, there are scary weights out there. They're scary. But it's good to have big, scary muscles that move big, scary weights. I hope I get to clip that. I hope that's going to be a short. But with that all being said, is eventually, if you're doing these minimum increments of increase, eventually you're gonna reach something that's gonna be like a scary amount of weight. Eventually, you hit 220 for 7 reps, and it's like, oh, okay. By the methods I've been using, I got to go to 225, scary 2 plates, and I should be able to hit this for 4 or 5 reps. Then just do it. The data says you can, or you're very likely to. The data says your strength is there. And sometimes it's just doing the thing that you probably have the capacity for. And it's just like, again, our minds get in the way of our bodies more often than not. But that's the 4 R's. So when it comes to just trying to beat the logbook every week in a way that's like add a rep, it's add 5 pounds, etc. Eventually, like over time, you just keep trying to beat the logbook. Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate that. I hope you're taking notes. But when it comes to, you're beating the logbook, what's going to happen is eventually you get to the point where you just there's this one dragon you can't keep beating, or there's one dragon you just cannot beat. You get up to 225 on bench and you just keep hitting 4s. I can't get that 5th rep. I keep getting to failure at these four reps. Eventually, then you're going to want to, rotate that out. And that's okay. Opposite that can happen, like if you're stuck there for like months on end, like keep trying to beat the logbook. Eventually you're stuck for like, let's say months on end. Probably want to refresh the exercise, swap it out, give something else the runway to train with for a while and progressively overload. Then come back later. And that's cool. On the opposite, it's like if you just keep beating the logbook every week, eventually you're just going to beat that logbook forever and ever, never actually hitting failure. But because your muscles just keep getting stronger, you're going to keep getting bigger. Eventually, you're going to be the biggest human alive. You're going to be the new Phil Heath. You're going to weigh 400 pounds of pure muscle, and you're going to win the Olympia, which I think is like $500,000 of prize money. And then you're just going to rewrite the record books. And one of them is going to happen first. Either you just get bigger forever and forever because you keep beating the logbook, or eventually you just hit this plateau, this kind of place that you just can't beat, and then you just rotate your exercises. Totally cool. And so those are kind of what I think of. I think the best focus in the gym is just try to beat the logbook. Keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. So KISS. And that's kind of the game plan. What I used to do back in the gym, I remember this was like a high school thing, and I think I just trained by myself. Was it because your boy didn't have too many friends? or just no one wanted to train with me. I think that the point is the same. But when I was in the gym, I would often do, and I think everyone who's trained for a long period of time says it. Okay, cool. So I want to do this heavier weight, all right, in my head, okay, this person just kidnapped my family. Oh, yeah, they have a firearm. Not good, not good. And he says very specifically, okay, Kevin, you need to hit these 90-pound dumbbells in this gym for 8 reps today, or else, your family's not going to have a good day. And then I just got to think to myself, all right, that's what's happening. That's what's happening. And I really psych myself up to get those 8 reps. And a lot of people would just use this thing to unlock a new gear, a new mentality in our head. Like we'll just make these kinds of scenarios up. And this is something that I used to do. And your boy was hitting PRs from it. Love you, Mom. And so that was kind of the situation where we often have this other level mentally that we're able to hit. And sometimes our mind will just keep us back. So that's something that I know that people will use to really make sure they're training intensely. So the 4 R's of training, back to this. The second R we're getting into, it's going to be repeatable. Repeatable. So I tell myself, hey, what's up, Nigel B. Walker? What's going on? I tell myself, could I do these reps for $1 million? And then magically I can, right? It's just, we need that like certain scenario in our heads. And then it's like, whoa, I'm the Hulk now all of a sudden. Like all these weights are so much lighter when I got that certain motivation going or that certain scenario. But love it. I think we all have those situations. Repeatable. Number 2, repeatable reps. So this just means you have consistent quality reps. Again, if you do nothing else, but you just train really hard, you're probably going to make gains. And as frustrating as the academic we could call in me wants to get, like, no, you gotta be really nuanced, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, no, you train really hard, you train heavier over time. If you always train hard and your capacity keeps improving, you're always just like right up against it. So it's just always going to go. So your performance just keeps improving because your capacity improves and you're training hard. So you're close to your capacity. So it's like a self-regulating process. But if we want to do things a little bit better, we want repeatable reps, which means consistent quality. So what this means is this will just give you objective progression. If all your reps look the same, they're repeatable, this gives you objective progression. So this is just getting our beat the logbook. So this is just going to help the beat the logbook, BTL. This just makes it super effective when you have repeatable reps, because now when you hit for beat the logbook, like now if you hit 8 reps last week, you hit 9 reps this week, there's nothing else that could have happened to tell you that you did not do better and hit a personal record, a PR this week, because you beat the logbook and all those reps were repeatable. They look the same. So you know for sure, okay, I got a little bit stronger last week, and that's good. That's a dub. And because apples equal apples, that's in my notes. You're comparing apples to apples because your reps are the same. And so that just makes it very easy to have objective forms of progression. We want our training to be as objective as possible, because especially when we have this mental beast, I always talk about slaying dragons, like the next challenge. Our own dragon to slay is our mind. Like we just talked about, like the ways that we can unlock a certain level of performance is like kind of make these hypothetical situations where it's like, oh, you better hit those 8 reps or else. And then we're all of a sudden stronger. So like a lot of times it's just this kind of our internal dragon that we got to slay. And when it comes to that as well, we just want to make things as objective as possible. So it's just like, okay, like it's an algorithm. All right, I hit 8 reps. So next week I hit 9. All right, next week I hit 10. Okay, now bump the weight. And then you just keep working the cycle. And then it's just like objectively, like even if I fear or not, it's just the next thing that I have to do. Do I fear 180 pounds? Do I fear 200 pounds? Like, well, it's just the thing that came up. So it has to be done. So it keeps that mind out of it. And it kind of keeps this dragon from getting in the way. It keeps it in the cave and away from you. And so even in the case, if you're hitting half reps, half reps in terms of training, but it's repeatable, and you beat the logbook, you're probably going to make gains because you are progressive overloading. The issue when it comes to not having repeatable reps, the biggest problem is going to be, so if your reps are not repeatable, they're not looking the same. The biggest challenge is it's not objective when you beat the logbook. You don't know if you're progressing because, oh, I hit 10 reps last week, hit 10 reps this week, but maybe I was swinging them a little extra this week. I don't know, maybe. I was kind of like throwing a little body language into those curls this week. And so I don't know if it was kind of, apples to apples comparison. instead of doing a shoulder press with a barbell, I was doing more of a push press where you're getting your knees into it. And so when you kind of have these gray areas, it's hard to be, again, objective about your rates of performance. Now we get these other variables in it, and it's not objective in terms of like, am I stronger? Am I bigger? It's going to be harder to tell. So that's number 2. We want our reps to be repeatable. Now we're going to get into number 3. This is going to be the 4 R's, again, of good reps. Number 3 is going to be ROM. So range of motion. Let's put that here. Range of motion. So range of motion. This is really important because, but I cannot say that it's more important than really hard or repeatable, because if you have very difficult reps that are half reps, not full range of motion, but they look the same and you're moving more weight, if you're just training partials but you're stronger, like, you're probably going to get bigger and stronger. If you're doing full range of motion, if you're doing these, full range of motion, but you're not training hard and your reps kind of look a little different every time, you're probably not going to make good gains. So these are in a hierarchy. And when it comes to the internet today, I want to make this clear. When it comes to the internet, free seminar, I'm in. What's up, coach? What's going on, Jessriel? Appreciate you being here. But your boy's on something today. But like, I am like, when it comes to information on the internet, I don't think there's a lot of information that's just blatantly incorrect. I think a lot of like people that are putting out educational content on the internet, they have good intentions. There's some scammers out there, but when it comes to fitness and nutrition advice, I feel like almost everybody is saying something that is, for the most part, true. The issue that comes up is, to what degree is it true? Where is it on this hierarchy? Low carb will help you lose weight. Yes, it will, if blank, blank, blank gets you to a calorie deficit. So low carb is going to be a far less in the hierarchy of just being in a calorie deficit. This is way more important than being low carb. Hey, if you eat more protein, you will lose weight. Yeah, you might, because it offsets, it's going to make you feel more satiated, but you still need this calorie deficit that is more a priority. So that's where I feel with like a lot of information on the internet, it's like, it may not be wrong, but to what degree is it true and where is it in this overall hierarchy? So these 4 R's, I'm trying to put them in a hierarchy, kind of an order of importance. So I'm hoping that this is helpful for you guys, so we can all be just a more jacked and juicy world together. So trying to make sure that we all, get there together. So back to number 3, full range of motion. So ROM. So we want that full range of motion. Why is this good? Why is full range of motion good? So number 1 is stretch position. Stretch position is starting to show that it gives better gains. So when we take our muscles through a full range of motion, we often, like at the bottom of a squat, your quads are very stretched. They're stretched under an amount of weight, under tension. That tends to be very hypertrophic, so very stimulative of gaining muscle. And some people are even just training specifically in the stretch position, just doing partials in that range, because it's showing that there's some really good gains to get there. I'm someone who's, again, number 1 and number 2 are very important to me. Beating the logbook is very important to me. So I don't really always like partials, because how much of a partial are you doing? How much momentum and bouncing is going to be in it? I just like doing full range of motion reps, because those are easy to count, easy to quantify, because they look, again, the same. Number 2, repeatable. So I'm not putting number 3 over number 2. So the stretch positions, there's a large value to getting into stretch position with a muscle in the reps that you do. And also, the beautiful thing about full range of motion training, so like going through full ranges, you tend to use less weight to get the same return, which is actually joints likey. The joints like that. They like having a little bit less overall, load, less overall weight on top of them. Because as an ex-powerlifter, I mean, my elbow's a little beat up right now, but ex-powerlifter, and I co-founded the team at Rutgers, shout out Rutgers Powerlifting. And we would see a lot more injuries as we got closer to competition time, because you get more specialized in doing the lower rep ranges and you start doing higher weight training. Just you're under heavier load. So like, okay, my lower back's not liking being under 450 pounds rather than doing, let's say, sets of 8 at like 405 pounds. So we start seeing an increase in those injuries. So by just overall doing these full ranges of motion, now we can get a lot more stimulus and use out of less weight, while still hitting hierarchy number 1, which is training hard, training intensely. our joints may be more likely to be in a good position over the long term of a training career. If you're doing a lot of very heavy half reps, that could be a lot of weight on your joints, and they may not like that over the long term, over a long enough training career. Just my guess, just the things that I've seen. So I personally go with full ranges of motion. And for me, I'd say probably as a bodybuilder, my best area is going to be quads. And that's because early on, I was fortunate. Early on, learned right. I mean, right, that's opinion. Learned right. Squatted deep. So when I first got into was joining the football team, one of my buddies who taught me to squat, actually a couple people taught me, they were big on actually hitting depth. They're like, I don't want you to do half reps in the gym and just doing like squatting a lot of weight but not taking it anywhere. Like, let's do some full ranges. Let's hit depth and let's get strong from there. Like, we don't want to be people just like kind of cutting those corners, so to speak, cutting those corners. And like a lot of guys in the football team would like squat 500 pounds, but then you see it and you're like, was that a squat? Kind of just bend his knees a little bit. And, hey, no offense. That happens. Like hey, do your thing. Some powerlifting federations, like all it is weighted knee bends. And that's cool. Others are going to be more strict with the amount of depth. And if you're a bodybuilder and you want big glutes, big legs, big quads, you're probably going to want those fuller ranges of motion. And that's going to be able to get more muscles involved. And that's going to be able to, get you some really good results. So for me, kind of bringing this all full circle, I was very fortunate to have mentors or people that taught me the how to lift, that they valued range of motion. They didn't want to just like throw as much weight on the bar and then kind of hype you up on the football team. Like, oh, I bench X amount, I squat X amount when you're not doing a full rep. That was going to be, something that, if you don't get married to that number on the bar, the sooner you can not be married to it, I think that you're going to be in a good spot. But also in the same like hypothetical situation is the sooner you swallow the frog. I think if you've heard the saying, swallow the toad or swallow the frog, it's like do the thing you don't want to do early on. And that is going to be just starting to squat full range of motion because or leg pressing full range of motion, because at some point your ego is going to get a right hook to the face where, okay, I think that I squat 500 pounds, and then you do a powerlifting meet or you show, somebody who's an experienced squatter and you show them and like, like, what was that? And then eventually you're like, what do you mean? Like, that's the squat that I was taught in high school. And they're like, no, you didn't go deep enough. And then you realize, okay, if I want to do a by definition squat for like a lot of powerlifting federations, they're like, dang, I prided myself on having a 500-pound squat, but it's actually, let's say 400 pounds. Or maybe it's 365. And so the earlier you can swallow that frog, the sooner you get full range of motion or like a bigger stretch in your quads. And I think you're going to get better growth over a training career. So I'd say like the sooner, let me be that mentor for you. Squat deep, squat to death, and you're going to get more gains per squat. And I think also it hurts. It hurts to be doing less weight than we would with a shorter squat. But I think it's going to set you up for more a long-term trajectory of success and happier joints overall, as happy as they can be, especially if you get super strong, because heavyweight's still heavyweight. Now that was number 3, and finally number 4. The 4 R's of good reps is going to be control. Just wanted to capitalize the R. So control is going to be that final one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Control. And so why is control important? So control your reps. Control your reps. And so this doesn't just mean in the concentric, the pushing of the weight, the kind of lifting of the weight. It's the control on the way down. If you're doing a press, it's controlling it on the way down. Because also a good a good eccentric, so the lowering of the weight, a good eccentric in control sets you up for a good concentric, so an actual press. So imagine this. You're benching, let's say, dumbbell pressing, and you're just like, you're throwing them up and down. So it's kind of like, even on this plane, like it's kind of like you're not controlling on the way down, but like, there's that sweet spot where you bring that rep down. It's right where you want it to start that press. If you control that concentric, you're going to be able to have those more controllable more often, and you're often going to get better quality reps. Also, by controlling that lowering of the weight, you also are still having your muscles engaged, which is going to even get you a little bit more stimulus per rep. Yes, probably if you're just throwing around the weight, you're going to do a little bit more reps. But if you make a standard, one of the other hierarchies, I think that's number Number two, repeatable. If you repeatably control your concentric, I'm not saying like have a 5-second like lowering of the weight. No, it's just like have some kind of slow down to it. Half second, a second. It's not just dropping it between your reps. That's going to set you up for safer, more controllable reps, set you up for better concentrics. So I think that's also another eat the frog. Control your reps on the way down. You're going to get more growth, and I think you're going to train safer over the longer period of time. And so also what this is going to allow you to do by controlling that eccentric, it's also going to allow you to sit in the stretch. Sit in the stretch. So as we said a little bit earlier in number 3, a stretch position, a muscle in a stretch position, that's a very, apparently right now, we're seeing that's a very stimulative position for hypertrophy, so for muscle growth. So that's that value in, if like full range of motion reps, if those are like more hypertrophic, there's more value to them than maybe half ranges. It's probably because you're just able to get that stretch position, and that's probably the majority of the benefit. So when we go to controlling your reps, when you're doing these eccentric like reps, you're able to really control that stretch position, and really kind of you sit in it for like a half second. You actually feel it instead of, think of a rubber band, and this is done in powerlifting meets too. You can bounce off that stretch. You can bounce off your muscles. There's probably a little bit more likelihood that a muscle tear could happen. You're probably going to be able to move more weight if you're using that stretch reflex. But if you want to just stimulate the muscles, which is the way to have them grow, you're probably going to want to control on the way down and set them up for a contraction rather than having that momentum piece and just having them bounce off. So this allows you to sit in the stretch by having those controlled reps. And then finally, eccentrics, they give you gains. It's a part of like your muscles doing something. And I said good eccentrics set up a good concentric. So I want to put that in there. Good eccentric sets up a good concentric. Took me years to figure out like eccentrics versus concentrics, but eccentrics is just the lowering of the weight. Concentric is the actual contraction. It's the actual moving of the weight. And so it wasn't really a big focus for me for a long period of time. But I guess I've had more focus on it because there's definitely something to, especially with like dumbbell presses, there's something to controlling it on the way down, setting it up where you want on your chest, where you feel strong, you feel safe, and you don't have those misreps. We all know about a misrep where you're like, you bring it down, you're like, oh, we're here now. But like you want to bring it in a position where you're strong. If you control that eccentric, you have more control. You're going to get more quality reps over the long term. So that is the 4 R's of quality reps in the gym. We got number 1, make sure that your reps are really hard. Keep your intensity up there. 2, they're repeatable. You have consistent quality reps. 3, your range of motion, you focus on having a full range of motion. And number 4, you control your reps and you continue to have, again, repeatable, controlled reps. But again, number 1, if anything, the most important thing is make sure that your training intensity is sufficient and you're trying to beat that logbook and getting stronger over time. So